And recording is live. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Roger Zelaya. I am the broker of record for Radius Agent and, of course, all of our DBAs. And today we have a very special training that I've been thinking about for a long time. And or Harrison was nice enough to uh, volunteer for this training. So what we're going to talk about today is learn how to make money with commercial real estate transactions, right? And I'm not talking about the $2 million, what do you call it? I'm not talking about the small $2 million. Uh, oh my gosh, I just went blank.
Price point.
Price point, or not necessarily the price point, but like the shopping center, right? I'm not talking the $1.5 million shopping center, the $2 million shopping center. I'm talking about potentially if you have a customer that may want to lease 1 million square feet for 15 years, right? Or if they want to buy, a class, excuse me, a class A building in downtown Los Angeles. In the Inland Empire where I'm at, we don't really have class A buildings, but we do have class B buildings. So with that said, I'm going to pass it over to Harrison. We have an hour allocated for this training. And again, like I said, in the chat, if you go to the chat and you need to grab Harrison's information, is there. Harrison covers Southern California. And then we have Jeffrey that covers Northern California. And they are resources for you guys if you guys have any commercial questions. So go ahead, Harrison.
Thanks, Roger. Really appreciate it. Hi, I'm Harrison Hyde. I am out of the Circle office in Long Beach, Southern California. I recently got brought on to help expand the commercial real estate services, not only in our office, but for Radius as well. So let me get my slideshow up here 1 second. One second. All right, can everybody see this now?
Yes, sir. I
Okay,
can.
awesome. So yeah, I'm Harrison Hyde. I am taking care of the commercial real estate services here for Southern California. Just a little about myself. I have been licensed a little over 12 years now. I have been doing commercial for full time about 10 years or so. Originally started in real estate when I was really young. My dad's been in the business a little over 35 years now. We have apartment buildings, other types of investment properties. So when I was young, I was emptying out the quarters from the laundry and washing machines, uh, putting out bins and such. So really, really early on was exposed to just the business. Went to school for finance, did mergers and acquisitions for a couple different companies, and quickly realized I wanted to go back into real estate full time. So originally I started in residential, did that for about a couple of years and did well at it, but honestly just didn't like the pony show more or less, and like dealing with people who were expanding businesses or investing. It's just numbers rather than emotions. So after that, I decided to work for a company called Lionsall, mainly selling multifamily at the time. Did that for about 4 years, and then COVID hit. During COVID, I became a little bit more of a therapist rather than a salesman, just because unfortunately the state had a lot of rules that came in and restrictions as far as evicting tenants and such. So, with that, I decided to venture into more of the development side. I'd started working with developers who were doing more of the ground up developments, retail on the bottom, units, condos, or apartments up top. So my job was to basically go through, help developers underwrite these properties, and that kind of whirlwind took me into a couple other places, mainly on the retail side. So these are a handful of the different tenants that I either represented or worked with, and then these are some of my developers on the bottom that I work with as well. So I have a lot of experience with many different asset classes, self-storage, equipment rental, quick serve restaurants, trampoline, convenience parks. Sunrise Senior Living as well is a big client of mine. So I not only transacted in California, but I did statewide as well, as far as national too, for mainly Sunrise Senior Living. We have the whole Western region. So a lot of experience just in all these different asset classes and types. I've done everything from small to large scale leasing, sales, and development deals as well. So obviously you guys are all doing residential, and you're around commercial every day, whether it's going to eat something, um, you know, running a business or such. So there are a lot of opportunities for you out there to take your residential business and grow into the commercial space. You have people that who invest their money. You have people who run their businesses. You may work part-time for another business as well. So what I'm kind of here to help you do is more or less figure out a way to monetize those opportunities, in ways that you might not have thought of before. So just a little overview. I'm sure a lot of you know just how residential works, but residential, it's homes people live in, houses, condos, small buildings and such. Commercial, these are buildings for business or investments, office, retail, warehouses, apartment buildings and such. Financing's a little bit different. I know a lot of you are used to sending them to a lender, getting them pre-approved. So 1 to 4, the borrower qualifies for the loan. Anything 5 and up or commercial, it's going to be the property and its income that will basically run how you're going to be financing the property. Shorter term loans, they've got bigger down payments as well, typically 30% or above. And then once again, however much income the property is producing is what drives you getting financing in those terms. I zoomed in here somehow.
If you have a Mac, Command minus.
Command minus. I don't have a Mac. I've got PC because they don't like Macs in commercial real estate. So okay, let me try this again. Anyways, valuations of properties, typically for residential, you're going to take comparables. This sold for this square footage, a similar year, bedroom count, bathroom count. For commercial real estate, once again, it's all the income. You can have a property that has 2 different tenants who pay 2 different incomes, and that property is worth different values based off of what the tenant is paying currently. So lease terms, I'm sure plenty of you have done leases as well for your clients. Residential, typically 6 to 12-month leases initially, then it goes month to month. Commercial, they're much longer term leases, typically 5, 10, some 15-year with options. The leases are very complex. Just as far as expenses, if you're in a shopping center and such, if it's a triple net lease, there are a lot of nuances to it. So leasing in itself is a very difficult business and something that people specialize in commercial just in general. So your risk and returns, obviously, if you're living in a home, you're not getting much of a return. You're living in it. If you are investing in property, you're taking your money just like putting it in the stock market or any other security. So you are putting capital at risk, but obviously you are doing that to get as high of a return as you possibly get. And then finally, the management side of things, it's usually easier for residential, even up to a 4-unit for a person to manage on their own. Not always, but that's typically what we'll see. And then for your larger commercial properties, it's very complex. Once again, there are a lot of rules surrounding commercial with 5-unit and above apartment complexes, and then things like shopping centers as far as reimbursements, expense pools and such, which I don't really want to get into too much and confuse people. Oh, I got to figure this out. I'm sorry. There we go. I think I got it. There we go.
Okay, cool.
I got it. So how does this play into your business? Commercial it's a natural extension of residential services. Like I said, you have clients you're coming into contact with and selling properties to, and they have commercial needs, whether it's investing their money or maybe operating their business or helping their employer operate their business. Once again, client overlap, just what we're talking about here. You've got clients who do both deals, and you're just focused on the residential at this side with your business. If you're able to sit here and actually start talking to your clients more about the commercial side of things, hey, I heard you made a lot of money last year. What are you doing with it? Or, hey, your business is doing well. Are you looking to expand, get new space? You need to start asking questions like this to your clients, because there are many opportunities that you're just leaving on the table. And I've helped a lot of people who are residential agents make a very good referral base and good money throughout the years. I've got a guy who probably made about 40 grand last year just off referrals. Um, so obviously I can help you in many different ways. The first is by qualifying clients. A lot of people say, I want to invest. I want to lease a space. And, a lot of people just don't know the process or what you'll necessarily need, whether it's financing or game plan is to get into the property or lease the property they want to. So my place is to basically sit down, talk with you and the client in the beginning, and vet them, and just basically tell you this is the opportunity. They're realistic. They might be a little out of touch with reality. This is somebody to nurture. So I'll basically sit here and walk you through that. Leasing and sales, like I said, I've done just about everything, every asset type, sold large shopping centers, power centers, sold small properties, mom and pops, and then leased smaller centers and larger 50,000 square foot plus spaces. Market analysis, once again, if you have a property that you're interested in or a client's interested in, come talk to me. I'll underwrite it for you and give you a pretty quick idea of what you can do with a property and whether it's feasible for what you or your client are looking to do. And then just transaction support. I'm here throughout this process. When I work with you, I'm not just sitting here taking the referral in and then doing my business and giving you a check in the end. If you want to be involved and learn a little bit about commercial real estate, I'm happy to walk you through the process, as we go through a deal. I don't want to teach you too much because it is very complex and you guys need to focus on the residential side, but I'll show you how the sausage is made, more or less.
Harrison, do you want to finish the presentation and then answer questions, or we have a couple of questions we can ask you now?
Yeah, let's answer them in the end, or let's ask questions in the end if that's all right, because I'm almost done here.
Perfect.
So obviously, what's in it for you? Another revenue source. You sit here, whether it's referral or just going after this business solely, it's more money for you. Client retention. This is something that I've seen just in my business on the commercial side. When we sell in properties, we're making a person money. When you sell a person a house, you're getting them in a home. People are more beholden to me because I've made the money. I like to say that you give closing gifts, I get closing gifts. So what has happened in the past is that, I make you money. You're deciding to maybe sit here and do something with your home, whether it's buy, sell, and I've got a cousin, or a girlfriend or whoever it is in the family who sells residential as well. And since I've made you money, you're more than likely to listen to me. And there are times that I've seen where your business and your relationship can get circumvented. So what I'm here to do is help you, not only take advantage of the commercial side of things, but more or less make it, so that you don't have that opportunity for somebody to come in and snake your business. I know that for residential, you're already having to defend your business every single day. So I just want to make it so that, we're one less thing you have to fight for. Competitive edge. This is something that a lot of people just in my office have started doing. They're marketing themselves and saying, hey, I can do commercial. We have a commercial guy here. That's really helping people because obviously it shows that not only are you just selling residential, but you can help them with all their real estate needs. You are already sitting here and referring vendors, whether it's plumbers, electricians, inspection people. So this is just another referral source for you. And big thing for me is referrals are everything. I'm not going to make you look bad because one bad referral can wreck your business, and I'm acutely aware of that. Then no extra work. For you, if you want to sit here and do some work, great. If you don't want to, I'll handle everything for you. I've got somebody in my office whose brother was expanding. He has a law practice down in Corona. So he was just looking for some space, said, hey, can you help me out? Gave her 25% referral. We just closed it the other day and she got a check for $5,000 for just passing off a name, truthfully. So there's opportunities like that, and I want you to take advantage of it, and I'd love to help you any way I can. So, before I finish, this is just kind of how I structure my partnerships working with you. So if you want to just refer the person to me, I'll give you 25%. if you want to do some type of joint venture, I know that some of you have a kind of hand-holding relationship with your clients, and you don't want to send them to me because they don't know me from Adam. Um, I can help you with that. We can obviously negotiate kind of how we want to either split the deal, work it. Um, I'm here to be flexible and just help you in the end get your business going. So yeah, that's basically it. If you want to, I'm more than open to sit here and talk. Like Roger said, my information's in the chat. One-on-one meetings in person, over the phone. I'm happy to do it. And then obviously, if you have somebody who's interested, send them my way. Let's jump on a three-way call and just kind of talk it through and make sure there's a good opportunity for you there.
Awesome. Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So I want you guys to understand that we are not preventing you from doing commercial real estate, right? However, the Department of Real Estate essentially says that you have to have sufficient real estate experience in whatever it is that you're selling, right? So essentially, if you do not have commercial experience and competency, that's when Harrison or Jeffrey can come in, right? And again, right, I'm not talking about the $1.5, $2 million, small, what the heck did I say earlier?
Strip center.
Strip center, shopping center, right? I'm talking about, like for example, Risa is working on a 15-year, if I'm not mistaken, lease, right? So, that takes a little bit of expertise, and because, are you going to get paid for the 15 years now, like a residential lease? You do a residential 2-year lease, and then they multiply it times 12 months, and then you get a percentage of the commission. Commercial doesn't work like that, right? So we are going to be rolling out a new policy, and it basically, the questions that are going to be asked of you is, do you have prior involvement in commercial transactions, right? Do you understand a commercial purchase agreement lease? Do you have access to air forms? Do you know how to do commercial due diligence requirements and procedures, right? Do you know how to review financials, right? Operating expense, rent rolls, leases. Do you know how to underwrite the property? Do you understand the commercial valuation concepts, including income, expense, cap rates? Boji just asked about that, right? Zoning and environmental of the property, right? Negotiating the commercial terms. So all those things come into play, right? I don't believe that Jeffrey was able to make it today, but he is available for Northern California. Now, one of the questions that I have several questions. One of them in the chat is, Boji asked about, is it worth it for Boji to take the CCIM course? If you can, I know what it is. I've looked into it, but remember, just because you have a CCIM course, you may not have all of the knowledge, right? So I guess the question for you, Harrison, is it worth it taking the CCIM course?
Some people, it's worth it. In my mind, honestly, it's another designation. People aren't coming to work with me because I am or am not affiliated with CCIM. CCIM it's a great program and a great designation. There are a lot of requirements as far as having a track record of sales and leases. You have to hit certain thresholds as well. Without that, you can't even go through the process. The other thing is you're going to spend about $8,000 for really just a name. And I have gone through the track. I have not officially gotten my CCIM, but after kind of going through the programs, the various underwriting, just how to sell properties, and I just didn't see a value in it personally, just because of the past experiences that I have. So, to answer your question, it depends on the person. I have lost a listing in the past because I wasn't a CCIM. So it does happen, but very few, far in between.
Okay. Then the next question coming again from Boji, right? And this question may or may not make sense, right? Where do you find the cap rate in your local market based on asset type? And that is Like, I don't even know that, right? And I'm gonna tell you guys a story after, but go ahead, Harrison.
So cap rates are kind of tough because there are different cap rates for different asset types. There are different cap rates for different geographical areas. I mean, LA County, for instance, is got 20 million people here. That is Washington, Oregon, and I believe Nevada combined as far as the population. So cap rates are very difficult to sit here and have. This is the cap rate for this product type in this area. You know, it's very nuanced. So um, obviously, the basics are lower cap rate is going to be less of a return, but it's more of a better credit tenant or better location. And then obviously, as your return in the cap rate increase, it's going to be tenants who might not have as great a credit or more risky markets where you need to get that better return in order to take on the investment risk.
Got
If
it.
that makes sense.
Yes. And guys, unmute yourself. We're gonna go to Jimmy and then Boji. So unmute yourself, Boji, and just read your question. And your question I heard in commercial. Go ahead.
Hey, Harrison, good morning. I
Morning.
appreciate you putting this on. This is this is good timing because this is actually something that I've been looking into the last few months. I also looked into CCIM, so I appreciate your input on that as well. My main question was, I understand the referral business side of it. I personally want to get that education just so I could obviously understand it and be more of service to my clients. So my question is, will you be offering some type of an ongoing education workshop classes? I mean, specifically to understand underwriting, understanding, how to find cap rates, all the different lingo. That was one question. And then two, I know that Radius recently offered a commercial designation type class. Are you involved in that as well?
Uh,
Thanks.
Harrison, before you answer, let
Yeah.
me address those. The first question is no, Harrison will not be doing classes to teach commercial real estate, right? What Harrison is here to do is, if you have a client and you let's say it is a 5.5 or $7 million class A building in your city, then you have two choices. You can be like, hey, Harrison, here's Michael Jones, help him out, send me a check when it closes, right? Or, Harrison, I want to learn more about commercial, so can we work the deal together, right? And really, that's the best way for you to learn, right? Because let's face it, Harrison is 100% commission. He doesn't make money when he is doing classes, right? So and then I have not heard of any kind of commercial designation here at Radius, which if there was a commercial designation, I would have put it together. So we don't have that. So, but I don't know if you want to expand on that, Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like Roger said. I could teach you everything, as far as the basics, but it's just like residential. You really don't understand or get in the weeds until you're actually in the deal. So that's usually the better time for me to walk you through what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and just explain to you the process, in real time. Um, like I said, I can give you every example under the sun of deals that I've done and past experiences, but um, it probably won't have any bearing on your business currently. And the bigger thing is I don't want you to get bogged down on the commercial side of things and lose track of your residential side, because commercial stuff, I mean, I'll be very honest. My deals take forever. I just opened an escrow last week. It's going to be a year until I get paid, and that's if everything goes right. I got another one later in the week, hopefully, that I'm going to be putting in an escrow, and that's going to take 2 years. So, what I'm saying is basically, commercial's great. I'll teach you what to do, but you will go broke and starve if you're waiting on just those checks. So if I can go back, hey, I'd love to get, a check in 30 days. I am pretty jealous of residential at times, but, I'm doing what I'm doing.
Thank you, Harrison. Boji, unmute yourself and ask your question about the commercial listing agreement.
Yeah, well, I heard I used to have a lot of commercial friends, and I mean from all over the country. They say like if you take a listing or the client agrees to work with you, that does not prevent other commercial agents to cold call or door knock and solicit. So that's a wild wild west. It's basically. So if that's the case, how do you really make sure your clients are safe from all these other hustlers, like in the
I
commercial?
mean, it's just part of it, honestly. I our clients aren't our clients. Unless you have somebody who says I only work with Harrison. Unfortunately, I do have some of those, but people go to wherever the deal is. And yeah, you're right. We don't have as many controls on our side as far as ethics violations. It's the Wild West more or less. So you have agreements. Sometimes people don't honor those agreements, and that's honestly where you have to get in a lawsuit. But you're never truly safe. You just have to stay on top of your clients, and then hope somebody doesn't get in their ear and blow smoke up their butt, more or less, because it's just it makes my job more difficult. And yeah, that's generally how it is, though. But it is risky. There aren't as many rules. I can't just sit here and turn somebody into the DRE or the association I'm part of.
So let me add some additional context to that. If you are a member of National Association of Realtors and California Association of Realtors, and you have access to the MLS, and you're a member of those, we are bound by the Code of Ethics, right? NAR Code of Ethics. And one of them says you cannot interfere with an exclusive contract. So now keep this in mind, right? If you have an exclusive listing with a commercial building, right? And somebody is cold calling them to say, like, look, you have it listed for, I don't know, 3 million, and I can get you 5.5 million, right? And then they decide to go with the other person. Typically, I don't think Harrison is a member of NAR and CAR, and therefore he's not bound by those code of ethics, right? So now, and then, to get into a lawsuit with a, business owner that may have 20 $5 million buildings, it's going to take a lot of money, right? So, and then we have Chris Cruz. If you can unmute yourself and just ask the question yourself.
No, it was just kind of going with, like, in residential, if a client wants to cancel with you, it's like you're not really going to hold them against anything. So that can happen to us, right? We could lose a client here and there. But I did have a question. I was going to raise my hand on. You had mentioned, because I've referred commercial. I just referred a building in San Francisco to my buddy in that side, and but you had said on a lease, if it's a 10-year lease on a building, commercial agents don't get paid once the lease is active, or do they get compensated right on? Like, if I was to refer that 10-year deal, do I get compensated 25% of the calculations of the 10-year lease at the lease amount, like the total lease amount, or what is my payout on that example? Like, say a 10-year at $10,000 a month.
So just to kind of go back to the beginning of what you were saying with when you get paid. So leases are all different. You have different tenants who have maybe different contingencies, much like you do in residential. For instance, when I was doing Sky Zone, we had it where we wouldn't get paid on lease execution. We would get paid our first half when the tenant got all their contingencies for the permits and construction and approvals with the city. That typically took about a year. And then the other half would get paid out when the tenant opened for business. So I'm still waiting on a couple of those checks, to be honest. I'm in a little bit of a lawsuit, unfortunately, with an older broker because, like you said, commercial's the Wild West, and people think they can just not honor agreements. But to go back to the second part of your question, so you were saying 10 grand, 10-year lease, and I'm just going to do it basic because there are increases and such that we add into it. So you've got $1.2 million of consideration there. Typically, we ask for 6% commission, but let's just say I get half of that at 3%. So 36,000, you would get a check for 9 grand.
Wow.
Got it. And
Wow.
then we, as the referring agent, we get paid upon the lease executed, not the like after permits and their business being open.
You get paid whenever I get paid. So what'll happen is, we invoice once the first check's supposed to be due. Send an invoice over. Hey, this is where what you owe us. That's when you're going to get the first part of your referral, and then the second part is going to be when they open for business or whatever we've agreed to. For instance, on this last one that I did for the law office, we got paid half upon lease execution, and the other half upon them actually occupying the space. So they occupied the space 2 days ago, which is great, and now we're getting the full check. It's like $23,000 gross. So leases can be good.
Thank you, Harrison. Thank you.
Yeah. I think I saw some other people raising their hand. Michael?
Yes. Quick question. In your tenure in this industry, how much activity have you involved yourself in with organizations like BOMA or IFMA? And did they, if you did they help you advance your knowledge in the field you're in?
All right. Did you say BOMA?
Yes.
Yeah. So typically did not do much for me. There's just standards that we use for office spaces. Once again, organizations can teach you a lot, but it's really just putting your feet to the flame and actually doing the deals. So I was very fortunate to be able to attach myself to some pretty unbelievable brokers throughout the years, whether it's retail, office space, development, you name it. So I've learned from the best. I've gotten to put myself in all sorts of different deals, different situations. So to go back to your answer, a lot of these programs, organizations aren't going to teach you that much. It's more just actually being in the deal, and I've got plenty of experience to back it.
Okay, so outside of those organizations, where did you find yourself when it came time to network to find those mentors that you came across?
So a lot of it was just deal happenstance. My family owns a medical property in Long Beach. We had about 1.5 acres of raw land. I got a call from one of my old partners, Mike Granis, who represented Sunrise Senior Living. We had talked. He obviously liked that I was a hungry young guy doing a lot of business, and he decided to take me under as one of his mentees. And then we controlled ground-up developments for Sunrise Senior Living for all the West Coast. So Oregon, Nevada, Washington, California, and Arizona. So my job is to go out and find new development locations for them. So that was one place that I did just from my own dealings. And then for the retail side of things, we have what's called ICSC. It is a large retail conference, and it encompasses everybody from developers, tenants, high net worth individuals, REITs, and such. So yeah, my networking just came from doing deals, being in some organizations. Like I said, I grew up in the business too. So a lot of these people that knew me from when I was like 5, running around their offices. So just, throughout the years and having opportunities come and taking advantage of them is kind of how I've honed my business and my brokerage relationships and client relationships as well.
Great. One more question. For somebody who didn't grow up in the industry, what would be a piece of advice you would give me to seek out these opportunities?
Go find the biggest agents in whatever market you're in. Call them. Hopefully they're nice people, and just say, hey, I'd love to, basically pick your brain. I'd love to take you out for coffee or lunch if you're willing to. This is a space I'd like to get into. People love talking about themselves in the end of the day, so hopefully you don't get a person who's more or less a curmudgeon and will actually share their experiences with you. And just hopefully you have those opportunities throughout your career to sit there and just, talk with people, talk with brokers, talk with anybody. I'm a big yapper. I got no issues talking to anybody, whether it's a person I know or a stranger. That's how I got to where I am.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. I see a bunch of people. Chris?
And Harrison, when I come across just like friends or clients that want to seek like commercial spaces, the only place I really go to is like the MLS, which is very limited, and LoopNet. Are there other search sites that consumers have access to, or us in the residential real estate side of things, that we can kind of just further that search other than like LoopNet and the MLS?
Yeah, so
Before,
there's another
transferring
program
them
which,
off to you guys.
yeah, so Crexi, CREXI.com. I'll send that information out too at the end of this, but Crexi is kind of the new CoStar. So CoStar is the parent company for LoopNet. Just to kind of take it backwards, LoopNet was a free service back in the day. Then they kind of became the 800-pound gorilla and started charging for LoopNet. So between all my LoopNet listings, I pay about $650 a month right now. And then just what happened is they just changed it to now, whichever area you're in and however big your asset type is, you pay a variable cost for LoopNet based off of that. So more or less, LoopNet is going to start dying, and you're going to not see a lot of people advertising on those. So, to go back to your question, Crexi is a great program as well. Brokers like me, I pay into it, but with that, we're able to market just about any listing that we have. It's got a good interface for just, more principal-based people who are looking on their own for deals. So it's much easier to use. So Crexi is a good one. LoopNet is great too, but you're not going to find much. And the MLS is pretty rare. But yeah, that's kind of why I use CoStar, and I'm able to sit here and find everything that's on the market. And I pay $400 a month on that one, all in for all my programs just to do my business. I got to make about 48 grand in the year just to break even on my systems.
Wow. I want to point something out, right? So you pay about $600 a month just to have access to the MLS. Well, your equivalent of the MLS, right? And then
yep,
that's $600 a month. And then you got to wait sometimes 1 year, sometimes 6 months, sometimes 2 years to get a paycheck. And then if I wanted to go get CCIM, that's going to cost me what, 3 years, $8,000. So yep. I may not,
and you're going to have experience as well.
And I have to have experience. So the probably what seems to be a more reasonable path to success would be, I want to learn commercial, and I'm going to joint venture with Harrison, because personally speaking, I learn from doing, not just reading, right? So I don't know if we got if we had Christopher ask this question, and then I think Boji had another question. Go ahead, guys. Christopher is done. Boji, you had another question?
Yeah, well, I have two questions. Well, first one kind of goes back to my first question about cap rate. So more practically, let's say somebody wants to buy let's say a warehouse in City of Industry, and we're analyzing it, and then the seller disclosed the lease is this much. But how do I know if this lease is below market, or is it at the market or above the market? I was thinking maybe if you know the exact cap rate, and then you can kind of reverse engineer and calculate. If not, then the question becomes like in residential, pretty much all the informations are out there. You can just look it up. But in commercial, how do you do your research? How do you do your comp or research so that you know what the value is? Because it doesn't seem like there's a centralized place that you can just go look at what the rent should be or what the price should be, right? So the information is more fragmented. So how do you like, do you really have to know what the cap rate is in each local market, or how do you do your due diligence? That'll be the first question.
Yeah, so as far as rents and lease rates, I mean, to be honest, in commercial, that's kind of our juice and how we keep our business going. There's really no information out there. On top of that, when I was doing Jack in the Box corporate for Los Angeles County, we're under NDAs. We cannot sit here and share that information with anyone openly, I should say. So the way that I do get it's called a rent survey, basically figuring out what rents are on the areas, is to either call owners themselves of similar buildings and just say, hey, I'm just calling them, trying to put together a rent survey. If you wouldn't mind, can you share what the tenant's paying? Either that or the other way is just brokerage relationships. I've got an opportunity for a hard corner that's, half an acre. I know Panera wants to go there, whoever it is. I know there was a development down the street, so I call that broker and say, hey, what did Chick-fil-A pay? And you can kind of base it off of that. So, yeah, to answer your question, there's no information out there. It's relationships and being able to call owners, and that's sadly is it. Because information's everything. You have your larger brokerages, CBRE, JLLs. They literally keep huge databases. They've become more data companies than they are real estate brokerage firms.
Yeah.
Got
Makes
it.
sense.
Yeah. And the second question is more like, let's say if I want to refer someone to you, I like to, instead of wasting your time, I like to first know how to pre-qualify those people so that I know they are good referrals. I don't want to just hook them up with you. What would be a good way for me to like pre-qualify? So for example, a lot of these could be like companies or international companies coming to me and say, I want to buy a bunch of farms in Central California or a bunch of whatever in LA. Instead of just, get excited and hook you up with them, I got to be able to ask them a bunch of questions so that I know, are they for real or not? One of the questions obviously is who is in charge, right? But are there any other questions that you would recommend that we should know about so that we can give you more qualified appointments?
That's a good question. What I would say is, honestly, I don't really want you qualifying these people. And the reason why I say that is if you are not sure what you're talking about, and there's so many nuances to commercial, there are many times where I've had to sit down with somebody who has brought a referral to me. They've said something like office space is horrible. They're reading basically the TV and newspaper, just articles and everything that's coming out. And now I have somebody who's come in to sit down with me, and they have something in their mind which is not necessarily true. So I like to qualify them myself because I know the right questions to ask so I can get a full picture. You're never wasting my time. Any meeting's a good meeting. There's no such thing as bad meetings or wasted times because you never know where it'll go. But to answer your question, send them to me first. Let's just call me, say, hey, I might have a potential person. We'll jump on a 3-way call. We'll meet in person, whatever's convenient for you. That way we can go through it. You're the quarterback here. I'm support. So you're running the show. This is your client. But I want to be able to sit down and ask all the correct questions rather than, you qualifying them and then me having to sit here and basically layer on the actual questions or, more importantly, revert the things that somebody said and then have to go along with my pitch after that. So just call me. We'll jump on the phone. It's pretty easy. I've talked to so many different people throughout my career that I can figure out pretty quickly what's going on, if the person's real or not. And, a lot of these are just nurture them. Hey, this isn't the reality right now. This is what you need to do in order to get where you want to go. So yeah, just sit down, call me.
Yeah.
Don't ask too many questions just because it makes my job hard.
I want to add some additional information to that, Boji, and that is you will learn by doing, right? So if you have one, two, or 10 people that want to buy some farmland, or they want to whatever it is, right? My suggestion is get with Harrison, do a three-way call, and take it all in, right? Now, I have an agent that has been working on a $90 million transaction and a $50 million transaction. And she has absolutely zero experience in doing those transactions, right? And those transactions like have been going on for 2 years, and they want to purchase and they want to finalize the deal before the Olympics, but they don't even have a property in mind, right? And so personally, like if somebody wanted to buy a 90 and $50 million deal, same principle, first thing I'd be like, you know what, that's amazing. Yes, we can help you with that. Harrison, let's get on the phone with these people ASAP, or a Zoom call, right? But this particular person does not have the knowledge to run with this particular transaction, right? And I can assure you that nothing will probably happen over the next 2 years. I think the Olympics are in 28, and she's been working on it more than 2 years. I bet you that if we bring in Harrison to the transaction, he may be able to spot some inconsistencies, and maybe like proof of funds. I don't know, right? $90 million, 9 times 3 is 27. So what is that? 27 million plus fees, plus this, plus this, plus that, right? And maybe what they're looking for may not even exist. I don't know. But that's one thing. Let's see. Thank you, Don. I know that Christopher Cruz has a question. Are you utilizing any AI apps on the commercial side, Harrison?
Yep. My marketing, that's a lot of what it is. So I have a marketing program, which I pay a lot of money for. Again, it does help with AI. It helps with my client management. I am bringing on a virtual assistant as well over here. So, yes, I am using AI in my systems.
And then looks like Jimmy has a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Jimmy.
Yeah, hey, I just had a follow-up question because Boji really asked a great question with regards to, pre-qualifying, which I understand we shouldn't do that. Just make the connection and take it from there. In
Yeah.
my experience, like you feel so helpless on this call because they've got all these questions and I don't know it, right? But I'm relying on my partner in this case, in order to provide the value. So my question is, it sounds like you cover numerous asset classes inside commercial. Is there anything that you don't do? Because, for example, I had a client that was interested in starting or expanding his paddle business. He did some internationally, wanted to bring them to LA, and I was able to connect him with somebody, but I don't think they were well versed in that area. So I just don't think it was a right match in that sense. But once again, I don't know red from blue in the commercial space. So I feel like that's what I was able to do. So are you a specific niche or do you cover various asset classes?
Just about every asset class, and I'm one of the competitors to your buddy. I represent a group out of Texas who does Padel, and they are rapidly expanding. So I'm looking for the same spaces as your buddy, but just to kind of go over all the different asset classes I've done. So I work on behalf of my own family. We own a lot of medical office buildings and apartments. We ventured into other types of properties. We have a social club, which is now an event club that I leased out. So that's just our personal stuff. I've represented mainly for ground up, quick serve restaurant, in the leasing, development, and sales. I have represented Jehovah's Witnesses, selling to churches over the years, which was an interesting one. Self-storage, I've done a lot of. I would say hospitality is probably the one thing that I do not specialize in, but I'm always going to be upfront with you. If I'm not the person to sit here and have the capacity to help you or don't have the expertise, I'm going to send you the person that does. In the end of the day, I want to make sure that you can convert these things and make money off of it. So I'm not going to sit here and stretch myself or, promise something that I can't deliver on. So to answer your question, I've touched just about everything. I wouldn't say I specialize in one thing or another. I know enough to be dangerous in many of these asset classes. So bring anything. And, a lot of I just sat down with somebody earlier. They just brought me a piece of land. Hey, I drove by this. It looks vacant. What are your thoughts? Do you have anybody who can go here? And I'll walk you through it.
Nice. Okay.
Thank you, Harrison. One more question for Boji, right? And I suspect I may know the answer to this, but we'll let the expert answer it. Do most commercial clients work with certain firms based on asset class like Marcus Millicap or JLL or Cushman & Wakefield instead of independent commercial agent? That's a question for you.
Yeah, definitely. It's I've worked for larger brokerages, and the name definitely goes a long way with many people. If you're working with publicly traded entities, REITs and such, a lot of times they do use the bigger shops, is what they call them. As far as asset classes, there aren't certain types that any of these brokerages specifically go after. So, part of my business is obviously having to fight against the objection of, hey, you're with an independent brokerage, but I'm pretty good at walking my way through it, explaining to them my experience, but you're not always going to win. Some people do want the name, some people do want the CCIM. I just hope that my experience and what I've done and what I can do for these people helps me win the listing or the sale or whatever it is.
Thank you, Harrison. I suspected exactly what you said, right? When I was a brand new agent, I was at RE/MAX, and because of the RE/MAX brand and my knowledge was not what it is today, they would go with me because they wanted, the RE/MAX brand. But today, the entity that I use to sell real estate is Fusion Realty. Nobody's ever heard of that, right? But they go with Fusion Realty because of Roger's knowledge, right? Which is exactly what happens to you, Harrison. Sandra, go ahead. You have a question.
I don't have quite a question. I just want to actually, whoever's looking to partner up with Harrison, I've already did. And just how efficient he is. I have a client who's looking to do a 1031 exchange for $25 million that he needs to have. And he is on point. I mean, I've done commercial before Harrison got to our office, and it's very extensive. It's a lot of work. And definitely when you have someone that's an expert and that can create a marketing packet within, 10 minutes to send over to your clients that are looking to find out some more information, really quickly in the commercial industry is key. So I just wanted to say that he's, the way that he generates everything and puts it together for you to bring to your clients, it's essentially amazing because definitely being on the residential area in industry compared to the commercial, it's a whole different ballgame. But he, provides such an amazing detailed information packet that it's great. And he's just always available to be able to answer any of your questions.
Harrison, I have another question for you.
All right, lunch is on me. Lunch is on me, Sandra.
Yeah, $5 gets you a long ways, Harrison.
It does. It's amazing. I bribed her. She sits right next to me. That money got to you, I see.
Yeah, I sure did. Boji, are you in Northern California? You're muted. I think you are.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so the questions for Harrison. If let's say Boji has a customer in the next couple of days, to kind of pre-qualify, right? And you guys jump on a three-way call, but what they're looking for is, I don't know, Fresno or Sacramento. Can you help? Jeffrey unfortunately wasn't able to make it, but I wanted to see if that's even an option.
Yeah, I can help. Obviously, that's Chef's territory. So if you can connect with him, he's going to be able to service you better. But like I said, I can sit here and show you my Google Earth and everywhere I've transacted and everything I have going on, but I don't want my computer to crash right now because there's so much information. So to answer your question, yes, I can help you out there. If I can't help you out fully, though, I'll send you the person that do. I've got so many relationships nationwide with brokers, so we'll make sure you get paid once again.
Awesome. So we are at 11 o'clock, and I know that I extended this until 11:15, but I want to say thank you to Harrison. Do you guys have any additional questions before we close it and we stop the recording? Okay, doesn't look like it. So I'm going to stop the recording now and